What have I done?
All right, guys. So doing a little bit of talking about this VE engine. It's in the background there. And what we got going on, why I'm doing it, a few little things. So let's get after talking about it.
For you guys that do know, I'm doing the ultimate VE build, or
My ultimate VE build, I guess.
I got a couple little things we have to change, but let me know down in the comments what you guys think about the color. I like it. It's the silver, which I'm going to have these powder coated, so don't mind the runs in the paint. I'm going to have these powder coated, but I got to modify this a little so that the pump, we can index the pump. And then the actual block is Panther Pink is the color, which is actually
A Chrysler color. I like it. I think it looks good.
I wanted to talk a little bit, I guess, kind of why I'm doing this, because I had seen in the comments that some people were wondering if I was doing this because of Gavin. And that's not the case. I've wanted to do an ultimate VE build, or like a high horsepower VE build, for actually a really long time. For you guys that have been around for a long time, Diesel Power, Jamie is his first name. I don't know what his last name is, to be totally honest with you. Sorry, Jamie, if you're watching this. He worked for Diesel Power Mag, and he had Project Rust Bucket. I think that's what it was. Which the truck basically had no rust on it. It was like mint for us in Canada anyway. But, and he held the high horsepower number for a really long time until Gavin started doing it. But I bet since then have wanted to do it. But, you know, life gets in the way, the shop gets in the way, business, kids, all that type of stuff. And it was, especially at that time, it was way easier to make power with a P-pump than it was with a VE, because the VEs were really expensive to make a bunch of power with. So I just didn't want to spend the money, then have problems with the pump, which I had had problems in the past with pumps, because I don't know if I have pictures of that truck. Probably, I might. I was terrible for taking pictures, which is ironic that I'm on YouTube now, because I never used to take pictures of anything or video. Well, I didn't video anything, but I didn't take pictures. I have vehicles that I did hundreds of hours of work and don't have one picture, not one. Anyways, but I wanted to go through and just kind of talk a little bit about it. So the truck that I first started out with, ironically, which I didn't do on purpose, looked identical to this truck, but it was four-wheel drive, and it was standard, had a VE in it. And I don't remember how many kilometers were on it when I bought it, but it had a lot of kilometers on it when I bought it. And then I proceeded to molest it and beat on the truck for many, many years. And I blew head gaskets, put different heads on. It was fire ringed. And I spent a lot of money on that truck, especially back then, because you couldn't buy the parts. The parts weren't readily available at that time when I got that truck as they are now. Stuff was way more expensive. I think the first clutch that I bought was like $3,000. So stuff was expensive. And that was only good for like 550 horsepower. That wasn't even like a crazy clutch in today's standard, right? So anyways, but ever since then, that's the truck that got me, or the one that I used to have, that got me hooked on the diesel side of things. So I made, like, in the early 2000s, I was like 450 horsepower with that truck, which is a considerable amount in one of those things. I used to get the subscription for the Diesel Power Mag. I did for many years. I seen that and I was like, I am going to do that one of these days. Well, here we come like 10 years down the road, and now we're doing it. So, and you know, stuff had to line up. I have a dyno now. Obviously, I have the engine. I have an engine shop, so I have the engine. I have an injection pump. The injection pump is from Ratman Performance, if you didn't already know that. And then maybe I'll do a rundown of the engine, probably after we get it in there, get everything running. I'll do a rundown of everything that's in it for you guys that are interested, because I think it's actually going to be a pretty cool engine. I'm actually very curious to see how it's going to react driving on the street and all that stuff. So I think I'm going to start with the turbo that's on there right now. I'm going to change the compressor wheel in it, because it just has a cast compressor wheel, like a super generic compressor wheel. So we're going to change that and put a billet compressor wheel, which I have. This is a S475 87 turbine, and I'm going to put a 1.0 housing on it. I think I'm going to run this to start with the modifications, obviously. And obviously I'm going to have to put a gate on there at the very least to plug the hole up. But we're going to run that turbocharger and see what we can do with that turbocharger first. Because I'm just curious. Oh, actually, that's a question for you guys. So this truck, Shay's truck, is going on the dyno this weekend. And we're going to start playing with that a little, get the engine broke in, all that type of stuff. Because we just have done, like we did, it ran for about 45 minutes at 2,000 RPM. That's basically all to run, other than we moved it in and out of the shop a couple times. So we're going to get that thing broke in. So we're going to take that truck up from where it is now, which is basically stock, up to, well, as much as we can get out of that pump. Now, I don't know if we're going to, I haven't decided yet. We might actually swap this pump into his truck to make a little bit more power. It really depends on how many people are watching the videos. I'll be honest with you. If we're getting a really big amount of people watching the videos, then I probably will swap the pump in there just so you can show you what you can do on a stock engine. And then when we get to that point where that engine, I don't want to push that engine any farther, then we're going to swap everything over to this engine as far as the VE stuff goes. Now, the question that I have for you guys is, would you like to see this engine make from, let's say, 500 or maybe 650 horsepower up to as much as it will? Or do you just want me to go balls to the walls and do as much as it can to start with? Let me know what you guys want in the comments. Also, something else, if you guys wouldn't mind, while I'm doing these dyno videos and showing you all this stuff, if you could share the videos, that would be awesome. If you have buddies on any pages, forums, any of that stuff, if you guys could share that stuff, because a lot of this information, I want to be able to get people to have this information so that people aren't buying the wrong parts and doing stuff they don't need to do. Maybe even doing P-pump swaps and they don't need to. So I'm hoping that we can mitigate some of that. And these things are harder and harder to get. So if you want a P-pump, they're a lot more expensive than they used to be. But I just want to show people what you can do, what you can't do. Because there's lots of guys that are like, oh, I want 400 horsepower. I have to put a P-pump on it. It's like, nah, you don't have to put a P-pump on it. You can do that, especially now with the technology that they have. Because that's the thing. You can spend some money on a VE pump versus putting a P-pump in it. And it'd still be way cheaper, because that's the thing now. If you want to convert over to a P-pump 12 valve, you want to get, myself personally, you want to get the good pump. So you're paying quite a bit of money for one of those engines nowadays. They're not near as cheap as they once were. So we're going to go through that. But let me know in the comments what you guys think about that stuff.